turn you over now to the first presenter of the day. I met this person online because he started to be active with the Camino de Santiago or Friends of the Camino. In fact, he now manages the page of Camino de Santiago or Pinoy Peregrinos. I'd like to welcome architect Eric Cuisia. Eric?
Thank you, Vien. Buen Camino. For my presentation, I will be answering some questions. How did I come across the way of St. James? What made me walk the Camino de Santiago? And how did I find out about the Camino de Santiago? My answer would always be, God works in a mysterious way. I guess the question I asked myself then was, how did I really get here? 10 years before my Camino, a very special friend of mine gave me a backpack and a trekking shoes as a gift and told me to follow my dreams. I guess she knew me well enough to know that I really love to travel. She told me then not to worry too much about planning and just put everything that I would need in the backpack and just go. So I did. And up to now, I have been trekking, hiking, and adventurously traveling whenever I can with a backpack. And in between all those trips was the Camino de Santiago. The Camino de Santiago, or the Way of St. James, have become increasingly popular in the modern times, thanks to a variety of factors. One of which was Father San Pedro, who started the yellow arrows that you see along the way of St. James. Unfortunately, even with all the yellow arrows to follow along the routes and reading the alternative routes on the guidebooks, I would still get lost a couple of times in my Camino. I remember one Sunday morning when a peregrino friend, Danny, the guy in the yellow shirt, and I were walking along a grape farm. We heard a group of farmers shouting and waving at us from a distance. We thought they were greeting us, Buen Camino. So we greeted back and went on, just to find out we were lost, as we did not see the yellow arrows anymore. I guess that is why the farmers were shouting at us. Looking for our way back, we passed through these picnic grounds. And somehow, I believe this Spanish family knew we were lost pilgrims. So they invited us for lunch and directed us on the right path after. Aside from the yellow arrows, it was also Father Elias San Pedro who promoted the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela throughout Europe. It became so popular that it was later declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1993. Another factor is the movie released in 2010 called The Way. It was a movie starring Martin Sheen. Mysteriously, that movie moved me and somehow inspired me to wonder if I too can do it. At that time, I did not have that much reason to do the Camino. However, in 2014, after a life-threatening accident at the age of 49, the same age my father passed away, I promised myself that if I reach 50, I will do something different and special. I also wanted to thank God for eventually giving me a great life and surpassing my father's age. This would answer the one question that for sure would be asked of you when you walk the Camino. What was the reason you walked the Camino? Although the Camino de Santiago has traditionally been a religious pilgrimage, there are many people who choose to walk for many different reasons. So, come my 50th birthday, my special friend once again gave me a GPS adventure watch and said again, follow your dream and go. That started me searching on how to prepare the things I will need, as it was already the end of February 2015, and I have less than 3 to 6 months to prepare, should I eventually do this. In my understanding, I needed to prepare myself physically, mentally, and even spiritually. Traditionally, the Camino would start wherever you live, or you can also say that your Camino would start the day you decide on walking it. I guess I needed to start somewhere, and during that time, I was not good in searching the web on how to walk the Camino. So at first, I was basing it all from the movie The Way. Unfortunately, it only prepared me for the basic things, and the rest, I left it as part of my adventure. But from the movie, I did remember to bring a stone, a special stone, for my prayers and intentions to offer at the Cruz de Ferro, or the Iron Cross as they call it. Before my walk, I ask prayers, prayer intentions from family, relatives, and friends. I would pray for all these intentions every time I go in a chapel, church, and even cathedrals along the way. There was one memorable time that while praying all the intentions, I could not stop crying while praying as I already felt all their prayers and mine in my heart. That was in a chapel in San Juan, Ortega. And my God, it was a lot of prayers as I was able to visit at least 100 capillas, iglesias, and cathedrals before offering all the prayers and intentions in the Cruz de Ferro. Miraculously, most of the prayers was answered and I was getting positive messages along the way. While researching, I also found a story in social media about an abbey with a chapel in Alarats which was being rebuilt with the help of volunteers. In all my travels in Europe, to do volunteer work has been in my bucket list for so long. So this time I made sure to visit the abbey and share something when I reach it. I help out for half a day and also donated something. I gave 100 pieces of Camino tags for them to give to those peregrinos that would help them build. I had this made in the Philippines before my trip. I also had another 100 pieces made to give away to peregrinos that I will meet along the way. I guess I really did a DIY Camino, as I never was able to have an official guidebook until my second day in Rochas Valles. Fortunately, 2 weeks before I left, I found a Camino talk by Father Manny Domingo, and I was able to ask him if he can give me a blessing before I leave. So he invited me in one of his mass in an open parking lot, and at the end of the mass gave me a pilgrim's prayer and blessed me with my backpack. I also remembered a question I asked him. Father Manny, when is the right time to do the Camino? And he answered me, Eric, when you have the time. Oh, I did got some maps, collaterals, and some reading materials from an exhibit a year before my Camino. That I believe was provided by the Spanish Tourism Board. This will help me too. I was all set to go after that. Everything packed and very excited to fly. But the time I got to board, I found out that I was being taken out of the flight for some technical visa date reason. I have no idea if this was a sign not to go, but I just had to give it one last chance. I called a friend, Baby Garcia of Mondial Tours, and asked her if she could help me book another flight to London that same day and would take out the transfer visa problem. She was able to book me that night for a one-way flight via Manila, Singapore to London to catch my original connecting flight going to Paris and to Biarritz, France. She also informed me that I can pay for it when I come back for a request that after my trip, her boss wanted to talk to me regarding the Camino. Wow, that was a close call. But that would give me a longer flying time and would involve running in between terminals, and at least a whole day flight. So, in the summer of 2015, at the age of 50, June 21, Father's Day, I walked my magical Camino de Santiago Frances route, starting in San John de Port, in the border of France and Spain. The picture on the left is the photo on the left, Father's Day card from my daughter Bella that I opened at the end of my first day. Then, walking for 30 memorable magical days to Santiago de Compostela on the 20th of July and an unplanned 3-day walk to Finisterre, I got 2 certificates of my Camino de Santiago, a Finisterre Way certificate, and in 2019, I walked the Camino de Kumano in Japan that would make me a dual pilgrim for walking to UNESCO heritage sites. After collecting a hard-earned 127 Camino stamps for my 3 credentials on July 23, 2015, and walking for 33 consecutive days for approximately 868 kilometers, and the best unplanned part was, I returned to Santiago de Compostela on the eve of the Feast of St. James on the 24th of July and spent my day there for the Fiesta on the 25th. The fireworks was magnificent, and I wouldn't have ended it in any which way. It was magical. I have shared with you a bit of my Camino experience, and you would not imagine how many magical stories I experienced in my Camino journey. Most especially with my Camino family that I was blessed with in 2015. Blessed also with my Pinoy Peregrinos family. I always believe that up to now, I am still walking my Camino for helping people wanting to walk, walking, and have walked the Camino de Santiago. This opportunity is a blessing indeed. I was scheduled, all set to walk the Portuguese route with my family, Bon and Bella, last May 2020, but we needed to cancel because of the pandemic. We will try again next year, 2022, and we'll be hoping to walk with you, if God permits. See you all in the way of St. James, and Buen Camino. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. 868 kilometers in 33 days. I guess this is the common question by many of you who plan to do the Camino de Santiago. Is there a required distance? How many miles or how many kilometers shall I walk per day? The good news is this is a route that is totally dependent on your own pace, at your own pace. If the kilometers that Eric did in 33 days, you want to do it in 60 days or 80 days, by all means, you can do so.